The experts you'll hear from today, of course, we're colleagues. In the last several years, we've been doing these face-to-face, but we want to make sure that you get a chance to hear some thoughts from what I believe and what everybody here on this panel believes are some of the top influencers in our industry today. So we want to share this with you. And our topic today is there's no such thing as post-pandemic cybersecurity. So these top professionals are going to offer some practical tips and, of course, discussion on the post-pandemic cybersecurity environment. So this comes really nicely right after the privacy conversation that we had last Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we'll be talking about the IT governance systems and really wrapping this stuff up with how we might think through governance systems and frameworks and those types of things that might be able to help you in a post-pandemic type of environment. Mark Thomas here. I'm talking to you from the United States. Ramses is talking to us from the country of Spain. We have Alan Boardman talking to us from the UK. Now, Dirk is from Belgium, but Dirk had a conflict and could not make it today, but we're looking forward to hearing some of his thoughts on governance frameworks next week. Ed's talking to us from the USA in the state of Ohio. We've got Veronica talking to us from Kenya. Alain from France, but he's talking to us today from the Ivory Coast. Got Opiemi from Nigeria, Dr. Ramsey from the country of Jordan, as well as Dina from Jordan, and Kaya is talking to us from Turkey. You guys know an hour and a half goes by pretty quick. I'm going to go around the table. Everyone out there, give us your quick down and dirty, what you would have for your top suggestions about focusing now on cybersecurity to prepare for this, if it even exists, a post-pandemic advice. Alain, I'll start with you. We'll go to Ed next.
So my three top advices would be, first of all, appoint somebody who is accountable for the security, so for the information security. And this person must be at the right level, meaning at the executive committee at least, and have the right skills. So appoint a CISO. Security is larger than the domain of IT. So it's definitely not the place in IT to put the responsibility of cybersecurity. This is very important. It must be transversal and take into account people, HR, finance, everything. Second advice, focus on awareness, cybersecurity awareness training for your people, all your staff, because the threat is everywhere and everybody in the company is responsible for the security of the company. And third one, focus on remote working. Things have changed, and now you must, if you didn't have this already in place, put the efforts on policies, procedures, tools, everything to ensure that the end users' terminals, PCs are secure.
To follow up with Elaine, the workforce aspect is going to be what I'm going to be most looking at, specifically that data that was created while the folks were working at home and they were off network. I want to know the who, where, why, what, when, how that data was created, why it was created, how it's going to play in. I think that's going to be one of the big things that I'm going to be concerned about. The other aspect is looking at those potential incidents that may have occurred during the pandemic that we have to respond to. The loss of a device, whether that's through somebody spilling their drink on your laptop or somebody losing a thumb drive that had that company data on it when they were gone. Getting control back around that data. And I know I'm probably going to not make any friends when I say the importance cannot be stressed enough about having a current, accurate data inventory and knowing what's in your environment. It used to be our environment was inside four walls on our corporate networks. Now our data is well beyond that, and it's in our employees' homes on multiple different types of devices on infrastructure that we do not control as an enterprise.
The main thing I see is getting upper management support for any security initiative. Upper management accesses the most valuable data assets in the organization. And we have a saying in Turkey, the fish smells from the head first. If upper management isn't adhering to security norms, we can't expect anybody else to do it. Most of the companies where I live are structured as there's a single major investor that runs the organization. So like we call them patron companies. You got to get the patron to be on board with this stuff and be willing to do it. If they don't, nobody in the company is going to do it.
My comment, and I guess I said it last week as the closing comment, but I'm gonna say the same. Those are exceptional times, and that requires exceptional measures. I mean, we need to be on our A game more than ever. So these are times to show leadership. The people that are hearing us and sharing with us today through the questions, etc. At the end of the day, they know cybersecurity and assurance, and they know common sense, and and they know law, and they know legislation, regulation, privacy. So combine all that in order to what? To protect and defend any industry, any vertical, any geography. At the end of the day, whether if it's retail, telco, healthcare, at the end of the day, this is the game. The name of the game is protect and defend. So show your leadership, show the best auditor you can be, the best purchasing manager you can be, the best cybersecurity director you can be, because this is required. The bad guys are not going to stop because of the COVID-19, quite on the contrary. So we shouldn't be stopping and showing leadership and thinking certification, thinking frameworks, thinking governance, thinking cybersecurity, because of COVID-19, quite on the contrary. Show leadership, use technology. Technology can certainly help. Alan was mentioning compensating controls. Okay, great. But also detective controls and preventative controls and corrective controls. I mean, the book has been written. So use it to the best of your authority and ability. That's
got it. I love the book has been written. Actually, I think we start with that quote next Wednesday, because we're going to be talking about these on frameworks. Man, that's a quotable quote. The book has been written.
3 tips. Continue to assess the risks. In post-pandemic environment, we have to focus on the more risky activities, especially the ones that are related to working from home. The next tip is to be ready to respond. We have to make sure that all the users report immediately any incidents, even if they are working from home. Ensure they are aware of the organization incident response plan and how to report incidents, even if they are working remotely. The third tip is to adjust our cybersecurity strategies directly after the pandemic period to ensure that they are ready to respond to any challenges, just like the ones that we already faced during the pandemic period.
Actually, the world is changing after COVID-19. Now, the majority of enterprises and banks, especially in the Middle East, are moving to digital transformation programs, digital channels, self-deployed systems, online boarding systems as well, which will open a new, I think, possibility for potential attackers to launch some sophisticated attacks against them. And eventually, the recommendation will be for those organizations is to adopt threat intelligence and malware hunting technologies, in addition to go for security operations center orchestration techniques, which will help to identify, detect, protect, and respond to cyber incident without manual or human intervention, to detect any malicious patterns and to be one step ahead hackers and potential intruders.
Yeah, so great opportunity for ensuring that cybersecurity is really integrated into the enterprise. So where those key business decisions are being made, make sure cyber has a seat at that table. And following on from that, we've been through business resilience. Really important that we understand those key business processes, those critical business processes, and align to that those critical business assets as well. And then finally, great opportunity improving our cyber posture by investing in skills. Invest in our people, skills development, those competencies. Ensure that we're spending this time to invest in our people. And then finally, just be nice to ourselves and to others.
That last one is probably the best advice. But I think the investing in skills, what's interesting is there's an explosion in online asynchronous training right now. So that's a really good market. But be nice to each other. That's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard, honestly. Thank you, Alan. OPM to you. We'll close up with Veronica.
All right, thank you. A quote comes to mind that says that culture eats strategy for lunch. We can focus on cybersecurity strategy and all of that, but I think culture is very important, and it's very important that we adopt a culture of continual improvement, and that's why I like ISO standards, because that's the emphasis. Like 27001 talks about 114 controls that you need to put in place for your organization, and then continually improving around that. This is important because if you are not intentionally improving, you are unintentionally declining. So you can't just stay on one spot. So that culture is very important. So improve everything, subject everything to improvement, your people, your practices, your tools, subject everything to improvement.
What I would like us to watch out for is the cybersecurity, the cyber fatigue risk. As much as we are preaching, creating awareness, educating our users, let us not forget that systems are stressed, networks are stressed, and so are the users. So with this in mind, I would like to say something on a psychological aspect and welfare, that right now people are worried of where the next paycheck is coming from. So the desperation surrounding this lockdown, the pay cut, the layoffs, is creating opportunities for hackers to manipulate employers to even lose their integrity. I'm not advocating for the bad guys, but remember, any information that is leaked right now, it can potentially translate into money. And this doesn't sound like breakfast for the business. So assessors should ensure that we have the ability to monitor insider threats and be able to detect anomalies in real time before they happen. My colleagues have already mentioned about the refreshing the cybersecurity strategy. It is key because security right now is not about protecting people in the streets. It's about protecting people who have been forced to go digital, and the bad guys have also gone digital. So what does that mean to businesses? We need to reconsider, we need to refresh our plans, and we can do better. Let us be persistent with achieving this. Thank you, Mark.
A common theme here, and I think back to something that a good colleague of ours, Ed McCabe, said in our first webinar. He said, be prepared to defend your decisions that you're making during this pandemic. That went fast. Join us next week. We're talking about IT governance systems. This is a great way for us to wrap up all the things we've talked about between privacy and cybersecurity. We're going to talk about your governance system. How do you put these things into a single page? And that's almost impossible to do, but I'm going to ask the folks on this panel to put an IT governance system somehow in an hour and a half on a single page for us so you guys can get some value out of that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention as we went 6 minutes too late. In the words of Alan Boardman, be kind to each other. Have a great week, everyone.